She's a real pain in the... Welcome to the Pain in My Cast podcast with yours truly, Cassandra Jean. So we sit down and we're just surrounded by windows and it's pouring rain. And in the corner, there's this older gentleman who is playing piano beautifully. So I look at Dexter and I told him, I was like, this literally reminds me of Clue. This date, it's a whole vibe. It reminds me of Clue. I feel like I'm at a murder mystery dinner and I fucking love it. I guess I'm a weirdo. She's a real pain in the... Welcome to the Pain in My Cast podcast with yours truly, Cassandra Jean. Hey y'all, welcome back to my little podcast. I have gotten a lot of feedback from different people regarding it, and I think feedback is just a demon because people always want to tell you what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, and I'm at this point in my podcast where I'm like, just let me figure it out, let me practice on the mic. I'm still figuring out direction, what I want this to be. People are comparing it to other podcasts like, oh, Call Her Daddy does this. Oh, this podcast does this. And I'm like, I just want to be authentically and truly Cassandra. So that's what I'm going to make this podcast. I'm not trying to be anything other than myself. So I'm just going to start this off with that. Secondly, my first episode, Dexter DMs and Dick Pics, I said that I was going to give y'all a second Dexter episode. And then last week, I totally took some shrooms and sat down at like 2 a.m. in the morning and recorded a whole podcast about cheating and my ex. People have told me that that's just a vent session about my ex and why would I post that? And I posted it because everything I said in that episode came from my heart, especially since I was on shrooms, right? I really feel like shrooms open your heart chakra. So that episode is for me. I think it will help other people. I think it will help other women. I am a pretty girl, but my life is not perfect, and I wanted to share that with the world. Another funny thing that came up is people thought on the Dexter episode that his name was really fucking Dexter. No. First of all, I'm not going to name drop a real person's name ever on this podcast. Second, I will never fucking date a guy named Dexter. So just gonna put that there. I am also continually working on improving my podcast setup. I'm getting new mics. I want to hire an audio engineer, video cameras for clips for Instagram. I'm really working on that. It takes a lot of money. I can't have a shopping problem and be buying all this podcast equipment at the same time. So I'm just hoping that we will just keep improving every week. As far as co-host goes, the first episode I did with my best friend, Sydney, who I think we're a very funny dynamic duo together. She will hopefully be joining me more soon as we get the setup of the podcast locked down. But for right now, it might just be a lot of solo episodes. And then I am recording a few episodes with some of my girlfriends. So I have one upcoming with my friend Maya that I've already recorded, and I'm doing one this weekend with my friend Becca. I think also I'm about to earn the name of the freaking Taylor Swift of Austin, because if I start putting my girlfriend's dating stories and my dating stories out there, might as well be writing songs over here, you guys. So I will say that. Okay, so I hope you guys really liked last week's episode. I realized that I left you guys hanging on the Dexter story. So When we left off last week, he had asked me on a date at work. He had told me he was taking me to a steakhouse, and he had bought me perfume. Very weird. And, he was on his way to pick me up, and I had gotten a little worried. So I started sharing my location with my girlfriends. I think that's a safe thing to do when you go on a date, girls. And then I put some pepper spray in my purse. I think my mom put that in my stocking last Christmas, so she would be very proud that I took it with me. And he came and picked me up. He obviously was hot, and I was just so excited for this date. So, as we were driving out to the steakhouse, he played the most beautiful song ever. I mentioned last week that it sounded like Stevie Nicks, and it is so beautiful. It is Heat Above by Greta something. Obviously, I never remember names of anything, but go play that song on Spotify just to visually put this in your head, okay? So this song starts playing. It's overcast, cloudy. It starts drizzling, and we're driving through the hill country out to this steakhouse, and we're just vibing, like having good conversations. I feel like we both felt a sense of relief. I totally could be wrong, but I feel like it was one of his first dates since his previous relationship, because I think we just really felt relaxed and in a good place. I think I should mention that his previous relationship, I don't want to give too many details, but he got cheated on too, okay? That's all that fucking matters. So we were both coming from a hurt place, and I think we were both excited to be going on this date together. And the reason I mentioned that song is because this date was very cinematic to me. And if it was a movie, that's the song that would be playing. So I'm just going to put it that way. So we drive to the steakhouse, and it's pouring at this point when we get there. And we get out of the car and we go inside. And I remember walking in, and he had dropped me off because he was going to park the car, so I didn't get rained on. And I walked in to talk to the hostess, and she asked me who the reservation was under. And I didn't know Dexter's last name, so I just was like, oh, Dexter. And that's when it hit me. I was like, I don't even know this guy's last name. That's pretty bad. But anyway, they figured it out with his first name. He didn't see that encounter, thank God. And he came inside, and they sat us at a table. And at this steakhouse, it's like very old Texas vibes. They have a bunch of historical statues and pieces of art that are all like Texan, and it has huge windows like throughout the steakhouse. So we sit down, and we're just surrounded by windows, and it's pouring rain. And in the corner, there's this older gentleman who is playing piano beautifully. So I look at Dexter, and I told him, I was like, this literally reminds me of Clue. This date, it's a whole vibe. It reminds me of Clue. I feel like I'm at a murder mystery dinner, and I fucking love it. I guess I'm a weirdo. I don't know. But I had so much fun with him. We were sitting there just enjoying ourselves. I would say our dinner, but I didn't eat much. I was in the point of healing from my breakup where I wasn't eating a lot. So for dinner that night, I had 3 dirty martinis. I think I would have only had 2, but he definitely persuaded me to have 3. And we'll just say that he was doing his fair share of drinking in tequila. So we're just having fun, and he looks over at me and he tells me to look at the table next to us. And I look that way, and I had already noticed this couple because they seemed out of place for a steakhouse. I don't mean that in any way. I think there's usually a certain dress code for how you dress, and they definitely weren't in that dress code. And he looks at me and he goes, "This guy is being such a simp," which I had never heard of simp in my entire life. I don't even know. Someone tell me in my comments on Instagram what a simp is. I think it's just a piece of shit as far as I'm concerned, because he tells me that he can see this guy like texting his wife or his girlfriend while he's on a date with this other girl. So I thought it was interesting that he noticed that, but it was whatever. We got so drunk that before we left, because we definitely didn't eat steaks, we just munched on appetizers and mac and cheese. Because what else are you going to want to eat? You know, mac and cheese is like the most important meal of the day. And he ordered one to go, but right at the end of the date, like, we were plastered pretty much. And he looked at me in my eyes and he was like, "My place or your place?" And if you listened last week, he had sent me a photo, right? So I already know what it looks like. I'm visualizing that photo. It had been weeks since I'd been with my ex. I'm dirty martinis deep, which if you drink a martini, it's like straight fucking alcohol. So yeah, at that point I was like, yes, let's go back to your place. I was having a good time. I just thought it was carefree, fun, no stipulations. So we go out to his car, and I don't know how to say this in a polite way, and I hope my mother does not listen to this podcast, but something overcame me once we got into that Forerunner, the Forerunner that I thought was sexy, that he had picked me up in, and I had no bounds. I became a totally different person, and we'll just say that we got frisky in that Forerunner, and it was an out of body experience for me. So much so that the car in front of us, which at this point I didn't notice anyone else around us, they shone their lights on us, and he was like, "Oh shit, like we need to go, finish this at my place." And I honestly didn't even care. Sometimes I have this ballsy, I don't know, my alter ego takes over and I just don't give a fuck. But I was like, okay, let's go back to your place. So we ended up going back to his place, and obviously you can imagine what happened there. I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, he had a very like homey, welcoming house, and it felt safe and secure and nice to feel cared about. Just after how I had been treated in my previous relationship, it was nice to have a gentleman, I thought at that point, pick me up and take me to dinner. And I knew that I probably hadn't acted in the best interest of myself, but I just was going with the moment. Sometimes you can't be so uptight and rigid, and you just have to have fucking fun, y'all. So that's what I did. And it's funny because I started to notice just weird things about him being in his home. He was very OCD. If I moved something, if I took my shoes off, he put them exactly where he wanted them. Just really funny things that I found enduring, because I want to date a guy that is not fucking sloppy. So I just paid attention to these things. And the next morning, we woke up together, and I think we were both thankful for each other's company because we were both coming from broken places. And I think I had work the next day. He knew I had to work. So we got up and he took me early in the morning to this bagel place by him. And it's sometimes it's funny the next morning because it's like at this point I was hungover. What more did I have to say to this guy? And we were just kind of chilling at the bagel place. And when we left, I gave him a hug goodbye, and it was weird. I felt like he really needed this hug and needed to know that he was cared about, because any person that comes in my life, I do care about them and I give them my all. And I really related to this person because we both were hurting, and I felt good about him. He dropped me off and he told me he would text me, and I believed him, and he did. So I'll be honest, on my way to work that day after he dropped me off, I was totally blasting like trap rap. Like, I was feeling myself. I thought I was this shit. I just had like the best night ever. I was like, my ex who? Like, just wasn't even registering on my brain. And I do think for women, there is those endorphins the next day that do occur. But in my head at the time, I was thinking, oh, this person has flooded all my feelings to the point where I no longer care about my ex. And I do believe that's when you know that someone's meant for you, right? If you're so hurt and then someone comes into your life and you're no longer thinking about the person that hurt you, that's how you know you've moved on. And I think he put a band-aid on a lot of things and helped me with that in a lot of ways. But I think it was endorphins and a temporary band-aid looking back on the situation. So this guy's name is Dexter because there's a lot of weird tendencies that occurred with him, and this is why I call him Dexter. But after we had gone on that date, Dexter kept in contact with me. We kept talking. He asked me to do different things with him. Like, he was like, hey, let's go golfing. And I would kind of joke and be like, all I'm good for is driving the golf cart. And I felt like he wasn't sincerely asking these questions. I think he was throwing breadcrumbs at me, okay? And I don't think I've ever experienced this breadcrumb tactic in my life. And let me explain it. At this point, I was building back my ego, but I also have like random bursts of confidence where I'm like, yeah, I look hot as hell, right? And what do I do in those moments? I post selfies to my Instagram story. It's for myself. I usually post a lot of outfits or my makeup. It's all girly shit, whatever. Anytime I would post something, Dexter would send me fire emoji. Fire emoji. That's it. Every time I put something, he would send me some type of emoji that was usually a fire sign, which is like, I think it's already it's like a reaction you can just send, okay? There's no effort behind this. It wasn't even like, you look beautiful today, okay? And at the time, I didn't register that this was breadcrumbing or the possibility that he was doing this with multiple women. I just was like, yeah, this dude thinks I'm hot. Like, I think I'm hot. So, and we kept talking and he kept throwing the breadcrumbs. But we had gone on this date on a Thursday, and the following weekend was ACL. Austin City Music Limits Festival. Hopefully I just said that the right way. And I had all my girlfriends coming to stay at my place that weekend. I put Dexter on the back burner. I was like, it's girls' time. Austin City Music Limits Festival. Austin City Limits Music Festival. I have to check myself because I'm super dyslexic. My favorite time of year in Austin every year. Like, I go wild every weekend that weekend, and I knew all my girlfriends were staying at my apartment with me. I stocked up on sugar-free Red Bull, water, mixers, alcohol, everything except food because that was not essential, right? So at ACL, you wear these cute outfits. I guess you just don't wear that much at all. Definitely don't wear a fucking flower crown, but it's vibey. It's Austin. So I go to ACL with my girlfriends. And 2 years prior, since they hadn't had one previously because of COVID, I had gone with my ex and all his friends. And I feel like this event is where I really knew that I was in love with my ex, and we took all these photos together there. They set up all these signs and cool photo opportunities. So I don't know, I had a lot of feelings behind that, but I had a good support system with me, so I thought I was going to be okay. I knew that my ex and the girl that he cheated on me with were going to be there, but I can't even tell you how many thousands of people attend this event. So I was like, there's no freaking way I'm going to run into them. Guess who I run into well, I wouldn't say I run into them because this chick wouldn't notice me because she's oblivious. But homeboy definitely noticed me, locked eyes, and kept walking, okay? And then I felt this intense anger because he knows what he did to me. I don't even think this chick has a fucking clue. I don't even know if she has a brain cell in her head, okay? Or she just is very okay with cheating because she was very aware that I was in a relationship with this man. So, whatever. So, I'm like shaking. I'm so mad and just so hurt by these people. I just can't even understand how you could treat another human being that way. And I just have a really big heart, and it takes me a longer time to heal from things than some people, maybe. But yeah, I was pissed. So, you know what I did? I texted Dexter and I was like, I want to see you tonight. And he got mad at me. He was like telling me that I was booty calling him. And this was 12 on a Saturday at a music festival that he was not at. So it's not like I was texting him at 10 p.m. at night or whatever. So he wasn't like very responsive to that, but I knew that he had mentioned previously that he was not going to ACL, but was going to a Jack Harlow show that night at Stubbs. I'm very observant. Shit doesn't get by me. Okay. So I text him again and I go, what are you doing tonight? Of course, he answers, going to a Jack Harlow show at Stubbs. Wow, no shit, Sherlock. I'm fucking smart and I listen. So you know what I do next? I text him back and I was like, got an extra ticket? My manipulative little self. And he didn't text me back for a while, and I got a little antsy. I had taken adult candies at this show, and I was just vibing with my friends. And after we left ACL, we kept the party going and we went down to Rainy Street and we're hanging out at our favorite spot on bar. We're always there. And so he texts me back and he's like, I'm gonna go hang out at some bars on Rainy, but I got you an extra ticket. Let's go. Funny thing, I'm at a bar on Rainy. I'm at Unbelievable. And guess who walks into that bar? Dexter. So Dexter comes into the bar, meets all my friends, which I think they're just like happy to see me with someone else. That's not my ex. That's not a fucking clown. So they were just really happy for me. So we get to Stubbs, and this show is at 10 p.m. And I'm not even sure how I'm functioning because this is like day 2 of an all-day festival that goes late at night. And I had been drinking, but for whatever reason, I just can hold my shit together. So I get with him to this concert, and I have more adult candy. And I'm like, hey, do you want some of this? Because I'm not the best influence always. And I give him some adult candy and he takes it. And then, I don't know, 30 minutes later, he wants some more. So I give him more. And then I realized that was probably not the smartest decision. So this man is like frantically sweating. Like sweat is dripping everywhere. He's having like a full-fledged panic attack. And maybe he's just not used to partying as hard as I am. I will definitely say that's probably the problem. And so I told him, I was like, I lived like 5 to 10 minutes from the concert venue. So I was like, let's just go back to my place. I wanted to make sure he felt safe and in a good, calm place. And he was freaking out so bad. He was like, I want my brother. I want my brother. So I was like, okay, we'll go all the way to Africa where he lives. So I got an $80 Uber and Ubered us there back to his place. And he just sat there the whole night, like telling me everything about his life, all these things that had happened. And we're just laying in his room. He's sitting on a lounge chair, and I'm sitting on the bed. And the next thing I know, my phone starts vibrating and it like lights up. And I look at the caller ID, and it's my ex calling me. And honestly, I just was so embarrassed because I had kind of been hanging out with this guy and I felt like it looked really bad that my ex was calling me, especially since I had not been communicating with him. And I didn't know what to do. And I looked over at Dexter and he was like, "Oh, give me the phone." So Dexter takes my phone, answers the phone, my ex answers, and he just goes, "Sorry, bro, she's busy right now." And I think that's the hottest thing a man has ever done for me, for real. So it's like, how am I not supposed to like a guy after he does that? He just stood up for me against my ex. He's literally the first person I've talked to after a decently long relationship. He's picked me up. He's wine and dined me. Of course, I like catch feelings for him. You'd be crazy to think that I would not catch feelings for someone like that, right? And the funny thing is, when I first started talking to Dexter, I will continually say this, he lived in Africa, like 45 minutes away from downtown Austin. When you live in Austin, like me, I live downtown, I don't drive anywhere, and 15 minutes is far for me. The thing that I liked about Dexter is he wasn't wrapped up in the Austin culture. It's a little toxic for dating. Everyone lives in like apartments and high rises, and he lived a little bit more out in the country in a house. So I knew he wasn't wrapped up in the Austin scene. Everyone knows everyone. And I felt like he didn't know a lot of people. And I liked that because I'm more of a homebody and I would enjoy dating someone that stayed home more. So things progress, and he lets me know that he is moving away from Africa. He wants to sell his house. And in my head, I'm just like, okay, he's going through a total transformation period, similar to myself. And I have a girlfriend who's a real estate agent, and I always want to support my friend's business. So I sync her up with Dexter to sell his house because I know that he's not going to ask any questions. I know that he trusts me. And I felt like whoever I referred Dexter to, that he would go with them because I felt like he had a lot of trust in me. So I knew this was a set and sure deal for any of my real estate friends that I threw it this way. And she ended up being the one to list his house, and she ended up selling it. And this is where I started having problems with Dexter. Things got weird with my real estate agent friend and him. She said like highly inappropriate things to him. She's a married woman. Things like, I'll be your mistress, I'll be your number one woman, trying to sleep in his bed, like after going to brunch with him or something. And this is a friend of mine who watched me hurt from a breakup. And then the first guy I started dating, this is what she does to me. So I'm no longer friends with this person. And it made me look at Dexter in a different light because I think he was entertaining the idea. I don't know if he just liked the attention or what it was, but he should have seen how hurtful that was to me. So I don't know if this is just like a thing with men, if they just have to run around, I don't know what you call it, like fluffing their feathers after being cheated on, but he definitely was going through some type of process with that. I'm going to keep this short and simple because I've blocked this whole episode into so many different separate recording sessions. And right now in Austin, we are going through our second snow apocalypse. When it ices here, you can't really do anything but drink wine, or at least that's what I'm doing. And my mental health is going to shit because I think everyone else is snuggled up with their partners. And I'm sitting here talking about guys that have been terrible to me. And I wasn't even going to put this episode out, but my friend Myra was like, no, bitch, do it. I want to wrap up the Dexter series and never mention his name again. Ugh, Dexter, ew. But after that happened with my girlfriend who listed and sold his house, I just was like, anyone that has respect for me in a friend or in a guy dating me would not put up with that.